Joining us now is Matt Willey. You're an artist and you're from Asheville, is that correct?
I do live in Asheville right now, yeah.
Well, off camera, you were giving us kind of a hint of some of the things you're doing here, what you're doing here and what you're doing around the world. Would you tell our viewers a little bit about it?
Yeah, I'm an artist and I'm the founder of the Good of the Hive initiative, in which I am hand painting 50,000 individual honeybees in murals around the world to raise awareness about their importance, celebrate their behaviors, and really make a parallel between the honeybee and their hive and the balance that's there, and human beings and the environments and communities we live in.
How did you get and how did you fall in love and get this attachment to bees?
Yeah, I had an experience. I fell in love with bees 10 years ago. I had an experience with one where it flew into my apartment in New York City, landed right in the middle of the rug on my studio floor, and she was crawling along really slowly, so I had this opportunity to get down on the floor with her and really observe a honeybee for the first time in my life. I got out my magnifying glass and noticed the hairs on the legs. I noticed the hairs on the eyeballs, which I didn't know. And then I just sort of connected with this bee. There was a cuteness that I never knew was there. They weren't a bug anymore to me. They were something else. So about 2.5 hours later, she passed away. I put her out in the backyard. I came in and I started Googling honeybees. And I came across colony collapse disorder almost immediately. And this was 10 years ago. And that was still a huge mystery back then. Millions of bees were dying all over the world and no one knew why. They were just either falling dead at the base of the hive or flying away and disappearing. And it was this giant mystery. So I looked further and I came across this behavior of the honeybee where if a honeybee feels sick, it will exit the hive and fly off into the abyss for the good of the hive, which is where the name of the initiative came from 7 years later. And they do this because their immune system is collective, and they innately know that the health of their individual bee-ness is based on their collective hive. And it immediately clicked with me that humans are the same way, and we often don't act like it. Where was I in relation to my community? Where was my balance between what was happening individually and whatever community it is, whether it's a group of people like women with cancer getting together to solve their issue, you know, of like collectively what happens in those scenarios. And it's gone forward from there, you know, looking at the world in terms of individuals within groups. So I'm hand painting 50,000 of them. And so after I came across that behavior, it's about 7 years later, I had gotten really interested in honeybees and was talking about them with people. I've been painting murals for 25 years, everything from sports murals for an NBA team to a space library in DC. So I had never been interested in bugs before, but now the bees had come into my consciousness, and I had a conversation with a friend. And so I got this iPhone video from her. And it was the side of a honey company in Central Florida. And she was like, Matt Willey, you need to paint bees on the side of this building. And I said, you know what, Maura, maybe I do need to go paint bees on the side of that building. So I called them up and I said, would you guys like a mural of honeybees? And they said, we would love a mural of honeybees, but we got no money to pay you, and murals are illegal in our town.
Well, so far that sounds like it's had every reason for you to go there.
Right, right. And I said, well, I'm getting a little old for running from the cops, and I paint way too slow. They'll totally catch me. So if you guys get the law changed, I'll figure out a way to do it, figuring there's no way they're going to call me back ever, right? So 2 months later, I got a call from them, and they said, we got the law changed. When are you coming?
Wow, what a cool story.
Yeah, I just put up a web page and raised like $500 for gas money. But it was once I got there that the amazing things started to happen. Someone put me up in their RV for free for 10 weeks. The restaurants in town started giving me free food, free salad bar. The coffee shop in town wouldn't let me pay for a cup of coffee. They were bringing me breakfast at my job site. Local beekeepers were bringing me a little jar of honey I could sell to make a little money. And people started donating money in little bits. And then a little news story hit Facebook, and people started donating money from around the country. And then the most interesting thing happened. Other honey companies around the country were donating little bits of money for me to paint bees on what was essentially a competitor's wall. And I thought, find me another place in the business world where that's going to happen. And it was in that that site where this guy comes walking up to me, and I was just learning about bees from these people, but this one guy comes walking up to me, he's got a little honeybee, like a parrot, on his shoulder, and it won't leave him alone. And he says to me, okay, this bee is telling me to come talk to you. So we just struck up a conversation, and he asked me how many bees are in a healthy hive of bees. And I had just learned between 30 and 60,000. And he sort of flippantly said, you think you can paint 50,000 of them? And there were 17 in the first mural. But it hit me as an artist. I was like, oh, I want to see if I can do this. And it just, the story has gone on from there. That was 3 years ago. I've painted 3,000 bees at this point, and we've got 47,000 to go. But we've had inquiries from all over the world. I've painted in Lyons, Nebraska, New York City, Washington, D.C., Seattle, Washington, Central Florida. I painted the side of Burt's Bees Global Headquarters, and they emailed me and were like, one more person emails us about you, like, come and meet us. We got to talk to you. And that turned into a mural, and it's been great. Like, who knew you could, live out there in the world? Hey, kids, anything is possible.
Well, so, all right, you're going to finish this up, all right? How are you going to leave your story for folks to be able to understand what this means?
Well, I've been talking to the ArtFields people really about, because there's a mirror there with what they're doing in this community. It was one of the reasons I wanted to come. They're using art to really expand the consciousness of this place and really bring energy here in a positive way. I use the art and the bees to do that on my journey. So it was a really beautiful marriage of the two things. My mission is to continuously raise awareness about the bees until everyone on the planet knows about them, and then we can begin to work on a solution. But that's what I hope to leave behind, is that people continuously go by and it expands. We're beginning to do Google Hangouts with classrooms. Talking to the kids, getting them aware that little bee is not a flying stinger. It is a pollinator that has way more importance than having anything to do with it, whether it stings or not. And that's a huge mogul to get over a lot of the time. There's a lot of fear around them. So painting them big, giant, beautiful, kind of like puppies, so they can come up and play around and pretend they're holding. People have been taking pictures pretending they're holding the bee, or just interacting in a positive way,
So where do you go from here?
Next, I'm going to New York City. I'm doing my first installation piece in Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza, across from the UN. They call the plaza the gateway to the UN, and it's going to be a surprise. It's 193 hand-painted bees. It's different. It's not actually on a structure. I'm creating the installation, and then from there I'm in North Carolina, and then New Hampshire, and then back in Washington, D.C. again.
Didn't you say you were going out of the country as well?
I am. I'm speaking in Scotland. I've painted a few bees in Rome, Italy already, and I've had inquiries from all over, so we're curating at this point. I kind of thought, who's going to want bees on their walls, and we've had this abundance, so now it's become, where can we be most effective? How can I go to the most important thing to me is that the bee is the one creature in nature that I can think of that we have a relationship with, but we never tame them. They remain wild. We have this, beekeepers keep them. They're at our ball game. They're in your car sometimes. They're with us from the time we're little kids, yet they're everyone's. There is no nationality, no country, no race, no gender, no nothing that can claim them. So I want to go to every type of neighborhood on the planet, and through this 50,000, show people that we are all connected. We are all one thing, like a hive.
Are the designs the same everywhere you go?
No, they weave through my imagination. Sometimes I use a behavior of the bees. This is a swarm, so it's a little more realistic in that sense. Sometimes I'll paint, like on an elementary school, I did a giant cresting wave of bees to get kids thinking about how you can use art as activism, the most peaceful, beautiful way to draw awareness and connection to something. And everyone is different. Every single mural. I've done a skate park in Asheville, North Carolina, a skate ramp, and you name it. But they change every time as they weave through my imagination.
So we said every design is different. How many bees are here in Lake City? And we were talking, it's not just on this front. We're standing in front of a big part here, but it's also around the building.
Yeah, each mural, I paint them and then count them after. So I don't know exactly how many are in this one, but somewhere I'm guessing, like a gumball guess at a festival, it would be somewhere between 300 and 400. This is one of the higher number ones so far. I'm looking at some designs that are actually have even more, but so far, yeah, this is probably the most on a mural, and it wraps around the building. I go into an environment and I paint to fit it. You know, I pay attention to the community that I'm in, the building that I'm on architecturally. How does it serve? How does it begin to get people to ask questions and be interested in it? And we had this really symmetrical building on the front. So I said, let's go completely asymmetrical and chunk them all on one side so you really pull the attention there. And it's as if from around the corners they're coming toward that swarm.
Wow, that's cool. And like I said, we were talking, is that like a 3D mural then? Or
Everybody loves the shadows, how they look like they're flying off the building. Yeah, that's like a real crowd pleaser, which is good. The kids take their pictures, you know, it's awesome. Yeah.
And what were those websites again?
It's www.thegoodofthehive.com and or just thegoodofthehive.com, and Instagram is The Good of the Hive, Twitter is Good of the Hive, Facebook is The Good of the Hive.
Well, excellent, man. Thanks so much, and what a cool story, man. Thanks for taking time with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.